So one of the things we always want to go ahead and get our athletes to feel is how to tilt their pelvis forward and backward, and how to create as much mobility through the pelvis so that they understand, number one, how to move it. Number two, we don't have a lot of athletes who have a stiff pelvis, which leads to us having athletes that stay closed too long, stay sideways too long, don't close well, and also additionally for their torso and for their shin angles to deepen and their torso to rise, they do a lot with their chin and shoulders and chest, pulling them upright, as opposed to their pelvis gradually getting to extension, causing the hips to rise. So when we're talking about hinge and we're talking about pelvic movement, one of the best things we can do for our athletes is go ahead and create progressions, number one, to isolate the pelvis, and then integrate that into movement and their stance whenever they're pitching as well. So one of the best ways we can do that is we're going to go ahead and have this band. We're going to put it right at the top of our hip, so kind of, right above where the butt cheek is, the top part of it. Now there's two progressions that we're going to have for this. Number one is the feet are going to be flat, and we're going to have the hips externally rotated out here, so we're kind of in this V position. So what we're going to do from here, and what we're constantly going to talk about in setting our triangles, when I use triangles and when we talk about setting triangles, the reason that's important is because triangles are going to set the levels of tension for us. So if I have an athlete who, when they're going and coming into their load moment, they have a torso that's upright and doesn't align with their shin angles, that's because we haven't set good triangles to begin with. Setting triangles involves understanding that we want to be kneecap, just like our athletic position, we want to be kneecap and chest above each other. So for me, when I set that triangle, I want to be about right here, okay? So now we're creating kind of even lines that tension can flow through, and it's the same thing that should happen in our hinge. It's going to be hard if we lack pelvic movement. So we want the athlete to cross their arms, okay? And from this motion, we're telling them, don't lose your shoulders, it's just the pelvis moving and the band is helping. So I'm working through pelvic range of motion. The triangle gets set, and I want a big release back here. So you notice the curve of my back is really prominent because I'm pushing my pelvis back, okay? And now when I want to tilt and posteriorly tilt the pelvis, we want to be sure that everything is happening. Good tilt. Good release. Tilt, release, and we want every motion, we want the pelvis to get more and more range of motion as we do this. Now, progression from this, then we're going to go to knees, hip width apart, and on the balls, on our big toe. Now, what you'll notice is when we're on our big toe, I'm not going to have to get as deep because I am on other joints, so my ankles and my knees. If I were flat-footed here again, then I would have to get deeper to create the triangle. But because I'm upright and I already have this angle of the femur here, I only have to get to about right here, and I'm creating that triangle, those even tensions. You'll have some kids who have different lengths of femur and torso, so their triangles are going to be different from other kids. It's not necessarily that everyone has to get to the same depth. Just look at them objectively. If we have these checkpoints, shoulder directly over kneecap, that's that kid's triangle, and we want to keep them in that point and help them be stable from that moment. So here, we're doing the same thing. Band helps us. Pelvic tilt. Pelvic tilt. Pushing off that big toe. Pelvic tilt. Pelvic tilt. Pelvic tilt. Okay? So those are the things we want to rep and start from when we're doing our progressions. So, like I said, starts above the hips. Knees out with the feet flat. Okay? Then we go to hip width apart on the balls of our feet, creating the triangle. Tilt. Big release. Tilt. Big release. That's going to help our athletes understand pelvic tilt posteriorly and anteriorly, and also allow us to understand how to hinge better, because if the pelvis can move, it's going to help set up our torso and our femur to have better mobility as well.